All right, looks like we're up and running. Today, we are going to be reviewing Game Review Scores Suck by Kevin Kenson. He seems to think that game review scores are really not necessary anymore and they suck and they're doing more harm than good. I generally disagree with him. I haven't watched the whole video, but I watched a little bit of it. I generally disagree with him. I think game review scores are a useful shorthand, although I can understand some of the downfalls of it. So hopefully this will be a nice little, a little segue into some of the thoughts that we can explore about game reviews. We're also going to be continuing our playthrough of Elden Ring, so that'll be fun. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Review scores kind of suck. I get why they exist. They're a necessary evil in the sense that it is an easy enough shorthand to tell someone, hey, this is how I felt about my experience playing this game. And
He says they're a necessary shorthand. So, are they a necessary one? I like them, personally. I think it's really good, especially, although I know a lot of people hate it, I find it very easy to just go and check to see, like, they're very useful to see the overall opinion on a game. So, a good example for this, recently that came out, is Tekken 8 has like a 90 or 91 on Metacritic and OpenCritic. I find that incredibly useful, because I don't have to look at what everybody thinks about it. I can just go to one of these sites and see it. I understand Metacritic has been used for ill in the past. I think it was Fallout New Vegas. So it was like, they got a bonus if their Metacritic score was an 85 and ended up being an 84 or something like that. So I understand some of the evil that can come from it, but I find them a useful shorthand. As he said, if I'm just telling somebody, like, my opinions on a game, I'd be like, hey, it's like a 7 out of 10. But I don't know that they're necessary. They're just useful, and people seem to like them. So, already quibbling, already doing a whole bunch of nitpicking. But you know, these videos are like 10 minutes long, and the streams I do end up going for 2 or 3 hours. So, if you're not here for nitpicking, I don't know what the fuck you're here for, to be completely honest with you.
on a personal scale like that, where it's one person giving another person their number ranking of what they've played, totally fine. Makes perfect sense, and I think it's a great way to sum up your experience.
Okay, so on a personal scale, on a 1-to-1 scale, this is not good, he thinks. He's saying that the overall scale, like if IGN putting a game score, or a score on one of their games that they reviewed, is not good, whereas on a 1-to-1, if I just talk to you, you're my friend, and I just tell you, yeah, it's like a 7 out of 10, that is useful. So what would be the difference between these two, right? So the difference is, someone like an IGN publishes seemingly, I won't say in-depth, but at least detailed to some extent reviews of games, and you can just completely skip that if you're just interested in the score. If someone individually asks you, you don't necessarily have to get it. It's just like a casual conversation. Maybe that's the issue, or maybe it's just that an IGN has too much power, so they need to be as clear as possible, and game review scores don't, they get rid of some of the nuance in the conversation. I can understand all that, but to be quite honest, there's a lot of times, whenever I'm using a game review score, I'm not interested in the nuance of it. I watch specific YouTubers, or just game reviewers, so it's only YouTubers, if that's what I want. I watch Skill Up, I watch Angry Centaur Gaming. I find them both to be incredibly good reviewers, and I watch a little bit of, I can't remember exactly who makes it, but normally if I'm just trying to get the idea of a game, like I barely know anything about it, I'll watch that. It's Before You Buy. I think it's like Game Ranks or somebody who does that. None of these have review scores. I know Skill Up does the you should buy this, or this game is incredible. It's like sort of a review score. It's almost like a 1 through 5 based on the title that they put in there. But they don't put like it's a numerical score, you know? I believe they show up on OpenCritic though. ACG does basically a 1 through 5 too. It's like buy, wait for sale, or Rent, or Deep Deep Sale on PC, or Never Touch, something like that. So that's basically a 1 through 5 too. But I watch their whole videos generally. I might skip around a little bit if there's one specific question I want them to answer. But yeah, most of the time when I'm using an actual score, it's because I actually don't want the details of it. And it is useful to not use the details of it. I really like OpenCritic. I don't like Metacritic so much because they're a little more shady. I'll still look at them. But I really like OpenCritic for game reviews. And it's a really useful tool if I'm just talking to somebody and we're just like, oh, was this game well reviewed? We can just go check. And game scores help that. If we don't put score on it, it's really tough to like judge. One of the things I don't like about I don't think OpenCritic really does this, but Metacritic will sometimes do it where they'll just read a review and then assign a score to it. I don't like that. But I think if the reviewer itself puts a score on it, that's often useful. Because the gathering of data helps, and it's easier to paint an overall picture to make sense of the gaming landscape. It's also really useful to see, like, okay, how have, like, game reviews changed over time. That's not something you want to read every single review on, but you can see, like, the trend of, like, okay, our game's getting better. You can use, like, one outlet for that. You can just see, go to Metacritic and stuff like that and just see, like, okay, this year was bonkers because it had a bunch of games that were like 90 or above. So it's useful for a lot of things. It's useful for noticing trends. It's useful just getting a high-level overview of how good a game is, and then you can deep dive in it to see if it's more specific to you. So it's useful in a lot of ways. I don't think the only use for it should be just two dudes or two bros just talking to each other, although that is useful too. Okay, so I'm looking for a gold mask. Not required for a quest. You're left to find a site of grace and go southeast. So where the terrain is second section of class where you connect. Use torrent to double jump. Find a. Okay. I'm at that part. I don't see where the gold mask is. I need to use him. Use torrent to double jump somewhere. This is where the terrain and the bridge meet, but I don't see the place to double jump. I will just go down here real quick. That I can find. Oh, is this it? That seems likely. Haha, how did I know? I a genius. Alright, let's go.
The problem is the way that review scores have evolved over time and our understanding of them when it comes to a larger conversation, whether that's talking about Metacritic scores or a particular publication's review of something, outlier scores of it, even the definition of what exactly a review should be.
Yeah, so this is exactly... I basically completely disagree. I think it's very useful shorthand. I know he's going to go into more details, but I just said all the reasons why I think this stuff is useful. It actually, I think it helps these conversations on what a review score should be, because you can much easier identify trends in them, right? So one of the things that people talk about is the meme that, like, a 7 out of 10, like IGN just gives everything a 7 out of 10, basically. And that's like a funny meme, but you don't actually have proof of that without review scores. If they're just saying, oh, everything's like good. Like everything's is a minimum good. Like all AAA games are at least good. It's really hard to gather that kind of information to see if a claim like that is true without the review scores themselves. If you're just trying to, if it's all text and you're just trying to be like, oh, IGN just says every fucking AAA game that ever comes out is good, it's going to be very hard to actually notice that pattern. Right? And so if we want to see if it's just the trend aspect of it, I think is incredibly useful. Metadata is very useful in determining whether or not things happen the way you think they do. Alright, so let's see. To find it, go to the beginning of the... Yep, okay. Fast travel to Brothercorn near the Altus Highway Junction side of Grace. So I did that. Yeah, Homeboy just isn't here. There's a couple of things I think I fucked up because I just don't... I don't know. I just screwed up a couple of things. Brother Corhin isn't here. Maybe I killed him. Maybe I didn't do part of his quest. I don't know. But I don't see him. So I'm going to go back to the Noble Gold Mask. We're going to see what's up.
has just turned into an utter complete mess in my opinion. This is something I think about basically every time a major game gets released and we end up having, let's say, dialogue about it, whether it's what scores people think it will get, what it ends up getting, why someone ranks a game higher or lower.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely issues with it, right? So if you talk really, really glowingly about a game, well, I'm gonna raid that. But if you talk really, really glowingly about a game, and then you give it like a 7 out of 10, that starts getting confusing. If you give like, what's a classically good game? I'm just gonna say Breath of the Wild. I'm not even gonna say Tears of the Kingdom. I'm gonna say Breath of the Wild. Considered by many to be an absolutely fucking incredible game. If you give that game like an 8 or something, but then you give like Street Fighter 6 a 9, people trying to be like, well, why is Breath of the Wild lower than that, right? And it's tough to answer that question because they're incredibly different games, right? So there are times where it encourages comparisons or encourages conversations that don't really make sense. Because, like, it really doesn't make sense. Other than, like, on a personal level, it doesn't make a ton of sense to compare Breath of the Wild and Street Fighter. It doesn't mean there's no comparison you can make. They are both video games, after all, so there are similarities. But they're very, very different games for generally different audiences. I won't say completely different, because I like both of those games, but they're generally aiming at different audiences. So when you have just a number, it's very easy to compare them when a comparison maybe shouldn't be made. So that's fair, but I think the benefits outweigh the downsides. And even then, I don't know that it's always a bad comparison to just see, like, hey, like this game, we're going to talk about Capcom and Nintendo. Just like it turns out which people are like crushing it in games right now. It's just like, oh, both Capcom and Nintendo have done this. We can compare their scores. Let's see which one's doing better. There might be a useful conversation there or something like that. Or we just talk about, like, okay, which game was actually the best of this year? I'm like, okay, we had 100 reviewers review both Breath of the Wild, although they didn't come out the same year. Maybe I should have done Tears of the Kingdom. They came out the same year. We had 100 people review Tears of the Kingdom. We had 100 people review Street Fighter 6. So now we're trying to figure out, okay, which one is actually, like, considered better by the audience? And then, or if they're very similar, and be like, okay, do these share anything? Did they do anything that, like, both would like? Did they do a lot of fan service or something like that? Did they both, like, really evolve the gameplay in new and exciting ways? Are they both open world? Which the answer is somewhat yes. Street Fighter has an open world single player game. So there's reasons for comparison, but it also invites bad comparison. That's a long-winded way to say it can be good and it can be bad.
Or all the stuff that kind of revolves around that, and I just wanted to put some of my thoughts down into video format finally with a little bit of a rant on it.
Well, good. I'm happy to listen to you, buddy. You know, this is a pretty popular opinion that a lot of people are coming out with, that game review scores suck. I know Total Biscuit had been saying it for a long time. I've always been against that opinion pretty much for all the reasons I just kind of said. But one of the things that I find interesting, I don't know that this guy does this, but I find a lot of people say, oh, game review scores are pointless, they suck, you shouldn't pay attention to them. And then those same people will go and quote, like, oh, well, this game's doing really good, look at its Metacritic score. I'm like, oh, so you just used it, right? As much as I use Metacritic and OpenCritic, I can't, like, with a straight face tell you that game review scores suck and aren't useful. I might say that they might be not a good representation or something, but they are useful, definitely. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe when he says suck, he's not saying they're not useful. He just says they're used in bad ways sometimes. But, yeah, I just find it really odd. People do that. People absolutely would be like, game review scores suck. Oh man, this is fucking great. Tekken 8 got a 91 on Metacritic. I'm like, okay, well, do game review scores suck or no? So that's what I feel about that.
And the first thing I really want to touch on is there is no such thing as an objective review.
Okay, there is no such thing as an objective review. I disagree. I don't think most reviews are objective. Maybe even all, if I'm talking about game reviews. I haven't really seen one that I would consider fully objective. Maybe I would consider Mahler's responses to H-Bomber Guy about Dark Souls 2. Those might be entirely objective, because he talks about just flaws in the game with examples. Like, you can be like, oh, the hitboxes suck. There's, like, fucking rushing or whatever in this, and it's just like, it makes it so you can't respond or whatever. Those might be fully objective, but, like, the fully objective review is a rare one. I also... Well, actually, no, here's an even better one. Digital Foundry does almost entirely fully objective reviews. Their whole goal is to tell you how good it is technically. There is maybe some subjectivity in that they'll say like a game is pretty, but you could even back pretty up by saying, well, it's fucking 4K 60 FPS. Like, you can qualify that with a whole bunch of objective statements. And that's like their whole fucking thing. Is just like, we're just gonna focus on the performance and the visuals and just all the technology and all the greatness that's coming across here in multiple things. And they literally call them reviews. So those are, if they're not entirely objective, they are so fucking close to entirely objective that I'm just willing to give it to them. They do occasionally say like, oh, the game is fun, but I don't think that's not really even part of the review. It's just like, it sneaks in there because the person's just kind of talking about the game. But that's not really the goal of the review, is to say that. Just because they go slightly off topic, I wouldn't say that the review is then, like, it now just becomes subjective because somebody said a game was fun while they're talking about all the tech specs. So, it's a real... I don't think that game reviews are entirely subjective. And I will say, a lot of your subjective opinions can be objectively wrong. I talked about this with the Tekken 8 review. So the one hot take the dude gave was that rage arts are, what did he say? They're get out of jail free cards, when they are 100% objectively not get out of jail free cards. Because you can block a rage art from your opponent and then punish the shit out of them. That's not getting out of jail free. If you can't just like freely press the rage art button and then get back into the fight or just win it, then that does not meet any definition of get out of jail free that I've ever heard. So that is his opinion, that he hates that, that's a subjective part, but it's based on objectively wrong info, I guess. I was going to say facts, but I was like, you can't have an objectively wrong fact. It stops being a fact. So it's based on things that are not true. So that doesn't make any sense. So we can even say like, okay, here's all these subjective opinions that we got about this that are they're actually useless and wrong, even though people say you can't be wrong when you're subjective. You absolutely can. They can be completely wrong because they got objective qualities wrong. You can also have an opinion. An opinion can be entirely objective. Like, I use this in the Tekken hot takes as well. Mahler had the opinion that Dark Souls 2's hitboxes were not good, and he backed that up with many examples of things that shouldn't hit and did, and things that should hit and did not. And that is based on the criteria that a hitbox should be as close to the visual stimulus that you get as possible. Like, you see my character here? If you want to hit me in the head, you got to hit me in that section, I guess, the little, like, kind of statuesque section with the crystals on it. You got to hit me there. That's where my head is. So if you hit me, if you don't hit that part, it shouldn't count, right? We can see the outline of my guy pretty clearly. If you don't hit me in any of the parts of my guy, it shouldn't count. I shouldn't get hurt. But if you swing at me and you don't touch any of those and I get hurt, then that is an objectively bad hitbox because of what a hitbox is supposed to be. So yeah, so you can have an opinion that's entirely objective, and you can have a subjective opinion that is wrong because it's based on objective falsehoods. Am I supposed to, like, equip that thing or something? I'm gonna just do it, see what happens. Well, that was great. I'm glad we did this. Okay, let me see where we're supposed to be going next. I'm after gold mask for no more contingent to cell dilation. So windmill pastures hold the noble set, battle mage set, and giant rat ashes. I'm pretty sure I did all the windmill shit already. Let me take a look at the ashes I got. Oh, I have a giant rat ashes. See anything that looks like a rat? That? Yeah. Okay, so I've got that. Travel back to the road of Iniquity side path, site of grace, and follow the road west and go to the Wraithblood ruins. There's a good chance I've already done that. Permit merchant's shack. Okay. Where is the road of Iniquity side path, site of grace? I have no. Is that this? Oh, it's that. Yeah, and then road of Iniquity side path, site of grace. Follow the road west, south to find Wraithblood ruins and the optional boss Sanguine Noble guarding the Bloody Healers. Okay, I don't think I did that. Wraithblood ruins. I don't remember. I don't see any Wraithblood ruins. Site of Grace and follow the road west and then south to find the Wraithblood ruins and the optional boss Sanguine Noble. Let me find the Wraithblood ruins on the map. I did not see them. Okay. Where they be? Oh, they're like here. Oh, west and then south. I'm an idiot. I was like going east. I just don't know my cardinal directions. Okay, yeah, we'll get that done. Yeah, okay. So Sanguine Noble guarding the Bloody Hellas or whatever.
All reviews, by merit of the fact that it is a person talking about their experiences of playing a particular given game, are ultimately a subjective experience.
No, there are objective measures that a person can just tell you about. Digital Foundry does this. It doesn't become subjective just because a person experienced it. You can measure these things. I can measure that a hitbox sucks. I can measure that the game's frame rate lags. I can measure that it drops low resolution. The dynamic resolution goes lower every fucking time. I can measure these things, you know? So I can measure that the HDR doesn't do anything or something. All these things that you can measure. I can measure response time. You know? My opinion on it might be subjective, but I can give you an entire review and just tell you objective facts about the game and then come to the conclusion whether it was good or bad based on the goals it was trying to achieve. There are many subjective things, like fun factor, you know, and just like, okay, was this game fun? You can answer that to some degree with objective fact, like, okay, it feels really unresponsive because it just, people don't do what the hell they need to do, or there's a bunch of bugs that keep, like, ruining the game or resetting me or something like that. So this fun factor can have objective facts, but it doesn't have to be, right? You can be entirely objective. What is this? They didn't say anything about it, so I'm not going to do anything about it. Okay, so we should be finding a Blood Noble before I... Look at that, huh? See? I switched. We're going to fight a boss, so I switched. I'm a genius. Total genius. Okay, so it's down there. That's where we're going to be going. That's cool. Oh, God, I didn't notice the blob was here. Why didn't y'all tell me the blob was here? No one even told me. Poor doggo looks very diseased. Poor doggo. I will help him by putting him out of his misery. Really? Okay. Alright, you're gonna die, you stupid little blob. Okay. So we got all our things. I'm gonna heal because I'm gonna be summoning the Mimic Tear. We fight the boss. Let's go. Already not doing good. I haven't actually been able to hit him, and then I died. Because I'm bad. What actually needs to happen is I use the Flask of Wondrous Physic. I use that before I enter the boss arena. That's what we do. We don't need to fuck around with all the people up there. Maybe the dogs, because the dogs might follow me. Got them both, because I'm a god. Okay, that guy's lurking around there. That's cool. Can't jump through there. That's lame. So let's go around. Alright. So yeah, so we cranked this out. I didn't even really fight the thing. I was already on the back foot right off the bat. That's okay. We'll get there. Run over here and get my runes. Okay. See, we're all set up. We're all set up for success now. We'll beat this thing's ass. Boy, are we already doing that. Jesus Christ. Sometimes I wonder, like, why did I even summon my Mimic here? I'm just like, I could have smashed that thing by myself. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to win, okay? As demonstrated in some of my Tekken fights, I'm not above just doing whatever it is I need to do to win. The Bloody Hellas. From the ruins, keep traveling directly west until you find a Bridge of Iniquity, Site of Grace. I think I actually already found that. Yeah, I did, but I'm gonna travel again. Bridge of Iniquity, Site of Grace. There's nothing there to explore. Keep following the road west until you hit a dead end at the Corpse Stench Shack? Something. I don't know. It's gonna be somewhere in that area. So that's where we're heading. So let's go together. Bamboozle Switcheroony! You see that switch? That's a good switch.
Regardless of how objective a person might try to be or think that they are being, their own personal tastes and distastes, the history of what stuff they have played and have not played, literally everything that goes into just making a person who they are, interacts with the gameplay experience and ultimately determines how they walk away feeling from a game.
Okay, well he said how they walk away feeling from a game. A review doesn't have to talk about your feelings at all. Digital Foundry is just like the best example of this. They pretty much don't talk about their opinion on it. And it's called the Digital Foundry Review. That's their goal, is to talk about, hey, this game, did it run well? Did it run poorly? Does it have, all the features that you need? Is it well optimized? Does it have good, display and audio and whatever options? Like, are all these things available to you? It's all objective stuff. You know? The most subjective part of it, I don't even know if it's subjective, but the most kind of off part of it is that they run it on a system, I don't know if they built their PCs, I assume they did, but their PC stuff would be like, it's really hard to recreate the setup that they have, right? And they literally could have built a PC themselves and then screwed up and just made one that's gonna run shit bad. Even though it's got all the best parts, they just didn't fucking, I don't know, they don't communicate with each other or whatever. There's something wrong with the PC because they fucked up the building process. That wouldn't be subjective though. That would just be an error in how they're testing the game and their equipment that they're using, right? So Yeah, I mean, I guess even if we just say, okay, classic reviews, where they say, okay, should you buy this game? It's based on, and I give my opinion on whether or not you should buy it, that kind of thing. Is that always guaranteed to be subjective? I don't think so. Maybe. So even if I take, there was a video by Total Biscuit forever ago. I don't remember which Need for Speed game it was. I think it was Rivals. I don't know, one of the Need for Speed games. You literally couldn't go above 30 FPS on that on PC. So he just made a quick video saying, this game is garbage, you shouldn't buy it. So where does the subjectivity come there? Well, it would be whether or not 30 FPS is acceptable to you, right? For Total Biscuit, it's not. Is it acceptable to you? Maybe. So it becomes subjective when he gets his final opinion in there. But, again, that was based on an objective fact. His feeling was that it was garbage based on the fact that you couldn't get it above 30 FPS. And even when you did, if you hacked the game to do it, it would just double the speed of the game. So that's all objective stuff. And his opinion is you shouldn't buy it because of that thing. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of agree. I don't entirely agree because there are reviews that have nothing to do with your opinion on it. Like I said, you can review the hitboxes in the game. You can review the technical fidelity in a game. You can review the online in a game. So a big part of fighting games is to make sure that they have good netcode. You can review that. You can demonstrate it and see, like, okay, is this really laggy? You know, does it stutter a lot? So all that, while it may differ from person to person, it's not, none of that is subjective. You know? And then you can objectively say, is the netcode good or bad? And that could just be the review. So I think he's not being very clear here. It's saying exactly what type of review he's talking about. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's not talking about basically a technical review. He's talking about just the like he said, feelings review. But you don't have to have your feelings in a review if you don't want to.
This is why there are so many big hit games that may have certain scores that are more commonly seen than others, but at the end of the day, you're still going to see those occasional detractors, and sometimes...
Well, the occasional detractors might just be for, like, a particular reason, right? So one of the reasons I give very few reviews on Steam, but I gave a negative review to Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2 because it doesn't have cloud saves. And that makes my experience worse, objectively worse, because I cannot switch easily between my Steam Deck and my PC. So I made it negative because the only thing I'm talking about in our review is 100% just, this sucks. And it is objectively worse because it is one less thing that it could have. There's no downside to having cloud saves. Unless you say, like, oh, the thing fucked up. My buddy actually got his Starfield save erased because it was out of sync, and then, I don't know, something weird happened to where it ended up being erased because of cloud save. So you could have, like, a bad cloud save system, I guess. But generally speaking, this is just a feature that is just, it just makes the game better if you have this, right? So my review was only that. I was a detractor. Well, actually, I don't even know if I was a detractor. But I was a negative review on Steam because my experience was objectively worse. And if you are in the exact same... if you're in the same situation as me, which anyone with a PC and a Steam Deck would be, or anyone with any multiple devices that they play Steam games on would be, then you're going to be unhappy. You're not going to be subjectively unhappy. You're going to be objectively unhappy with it because your experience is worse. There's more work that you have to do to get it to work on multiple devices. So no, detractors don't just mean Just because like the game is very popular, that doesn't mean every detractor is just expressing their different subjective opinion. It may be that, okay, like when you take the Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2 thing and you say, okay, you made a negative review because your thing was objectively worse, but I don't care about that. It literally doesn't affect me. That's still objective. So you say, okay, it does affect me, but I still don't care about it. Or at least it's not substantial. So it wouldn't be a negative review. What I would say to that is just, well, my review wasn't about my opinion on the game. My review was on my opinion that the lack of feature sucks. I didn't say, like, oh, the game as a whole is shit. I gave it a thumbs down and said, I don't like this thing because it's objectively worse. So it's still totally objective. But what you do with that information could be subjective. I'm actually playing that game right now because it's free weekend on Steam. So I'm going to try to blast through it, and if I might buy it because it's 50% off, and it might just be my Steam game, or my Steam Deck game. Which is fine. It sucks, but it's fine. Oh god, I'm getting wrecked. We got
People like to leap to the worst conclusions of why an outlier score might happen, which is something else I want to talk about. But the point I'm making here is that a review score, no matter how someone attempts to frame it, is ultimately a very subjective thing.
No, it's just not. I mean, I just have to repeat myself in order to counter that more, but it's simply not. It depends on the goal of the review. That's it. Is your goal to give somebody their subjective opinion on it? Then yeah, it's subjective. Is your goal to speak objectively about the game and what is and is not in it and what it does and does not well that you can actually measure? Then it's objective. That's it.
Sure, there are certain objective things you can talk about a game, whether or not it has a stable frame rate.
Okay, so there are objective things in a game. So if you only talk about those games, or those things, then it's an objective review, no? Why couldn't you have a review that only talks about the objective things?
What frame rate it's running at, resolution, accessibility options.
You're literally, first of all, accessibility options is also going to probably veer into subjectivity, right? You could just say the number of them, but it's probably going to veer into it because it's just like, I don't know, what works for one person. You can have two people with the same disability and probably have shit that just works for one and doesn't work for the other. I would guess. I don't actually know. Maybe that's a little bit more objective than I'm giving it credit for. But you're literally, if you're listing things that can be objective, if a review just contains those things, the review is objective. Right? It might be objectively wrong, or you might not care about these things, but the review is only talking about those things. And whether or not those things are good or bad from that specific standard. Once you set a standard, you now can have objectivity, right? You can set a measurable standard, therefore you can have objectivity. So if your review is only talking about did it meet this standard, and the standard has measurable aspects, it's an objective review.
There are things that can be yes or no answers that we look at a game and go, okay, yes, it does have this or it doesn't have this. But ultimately, the way that someone weighs the importance of these different aspects, as well as the numerous other parts that make up a game that really don't have a...
Okay, so whether or not somebody weighs these important aspects, a Digital Foundry review doesn't have to weigh anything, right? They can just say, this is bad. Well, the frame rate is bad because it's low here. Right? You can weigh that however you want, but they just say the frame rate is bad here. Or they say, well, this game says it was 4K. Turns out, the dynamic resolution, even on good hardware, it's always 1080p every single time. Right? So that is now bad. You don't have to weigh anything. You just say, that's bad. And then if you just say, like, every single technical thing that we can think of on a game is bad, therefore, the technical aspects of this game are bad. That all just logically follows. And it's not weighting anything. It's just, look, I found all the things and determined, based on this standard, that it's bad. So you don't have to weigh anything. His definition of a review is very narrow, I feel like. It's either very narrow or he's being very unclear on which kind of reviews he's talking about. I'd like to think it's the latter one. But I think he just also hasn't thought of the other types, right? I don't think he's really given too much thought to Digital Foundry's review. Which is probably, I'm sure this guy knows about Digital Foundry. They're very popular. I go to them all the time. I list my like game reviewers or whatever. Digital Foundry is absolutely one that I go to. I'm always interested, especially because they often they've now included like Steam Deck settings in games. It's just like, oh, that's so great. They included in their Tekken 8 review, which was a review and it was objective, they included the best settings for Steam Deck. So I was just like, yes, and I use them. I don't use them anymore, really, because I switched to a leverless controller, so my Steam Deck doesn't work so good because I'm using a different control style, but it's very useful and very objective. Very objective. Even some of even in the settings for the Steam Deck, there could maybe, I'm being invaded. Well. So, even in the... Sorry, I'm just gonna fight this boss. I got distracted. That looked like it should have hit you, because you had an iframe. That's okay. She got wrecked. So in the... I'm going to give you the best settings for this game on, like, Steam Deck, there could be subjectivity in there, because he says, okay, I kept this one off because this one was less pleasing. Actually, there's a great example of this. He talked about how you should put motion blur on because it has no performance effect, and he also likes motion blur. So maybe that could be subjective. But the fact that he said that you can put it on and has no measurable effect on performance is fine. And then you, yourself, could determine whether or not you're going to keep that on. Right? You don't have to. He said it doesn't affect performance, so you don't have to do it. Right? So, he said he personally did, but that doesn't really affect the review, like, at all. You know? So, just disagreeing, man.
Simple yes or no answer, completely destroy any chances of having a conversation of claiming that there is a proper objective score that something deserves to be.
Okay, I kind of misunderstood that. Let me go back a little bit.
Up a game that really don't have a simple yes or no answer, completely destroy any chances of having a conversation of claiming that there is this or it doesn't have this. But ultimately, the way that someone weighs the importance of these different aspects, as well as the numerous other parts that make up a game that really don't have a simple yes or no answer, completely destroy any chances of having a conversation of claiming that there is a proper objective score that something deserves to be.
What if they aren't talking about those numerous other aspects that don't have a yes or no answer? A review doesn't have to be 100% comprehensive. It has to have a perspective or a criteria in which it is judging a game. So, just going to keep hammering the Digital Foundry thing. They don't talk about how fun the gameplay is. Right? That's not what their focus is on. But you wouldn't say it's not a review. Right?
And this is where I find the concept of a number score to be misleading, especially within the context of how...
Okay, so he's saying, like, because it's not objective, the concept of a number score is misleading. No, as long as you know the thing is a subjective opinion, then the number score is just a representation of that subjective opinion. Right? It doesn't become objective because I put a number at the end of it. And the same is also true is that if you're doing an objective review and you put a number on it, it doesn't then become subjective because there are other subjective ones that have a number review on it too. So that's not making a ton of sense. Okay. Let me figure out what the hell's going on with my shack here. I say, get to the shack. I got to the shack. I don't remember what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing after that. That should be at least level 80, so it'll be a good time to complete the optional era Dragon Barrow if you choose to suit so. There's nothing mandatory but good loosened bosses to defeat. Dragon Barrow. Where's Dragon Barrow? Where the fuck is that? I can't tell where that is on my map. I would like to do the optional area of Dragon Barrow. Rails Dragon Barrow is location in Elden Ring, driving a stretch of plateaus and hills located directly north of Caelid. Okay. Oh, that's this? Oh, so it is. Okay. So we're going back and doing Dragon Barrow. So that's all this. Oh yeah, I remember doing all that kind of. So maybe we need to get to here. Does this actually guide me at all? Nothing mandatory, but loot bosses defeat, so you can take your time and explore at your own pace. Okay, so there's nothing I need to do here. So there isn't much of a guide. So we're just going to be exploring all by ourselves. Ain't that fun? Ain't that fun, you know? So we're going to go, I don't know, here. Probably go there first. I don't know where the best. Maybe go here, then go up and around, and then go up there, and then just continue up there. That sounds like a good plan to me.
A lot of people try to use them. A game that I've played and enjoyed, and I personally think is a...
Well, he did say a lot of people try to use them. He doesn't like how a lot of people try to use them. How people use a game review score is not a statement on whether or not the game review score sucks. You can have something that's great and people use in a bad way, right? I'm going to get a little bit political here. This is just like, well, unfortunately it's political, but I'm going to get a little bit political here. People were using ivermectin to help with COVID when there was no proof, at least as far as I could see. I'm not a fucking scientist. But there was no proof that it was actually good for that, right? But ivermectin is good. But not for a specific thing. It could even cause damage. There's lots of medicines that people use that are good, but if used in the wrong way, is not good, right? So it's not good to use them in a bad way. But you wouldn't just say the medicine is bad. It's bad for the purpose you're trying to use it for. Is that the dead dragon that you can kill and get a whole bunch of fucking runes or whatever? I'm gonna try to do that. So yeah, so people using something bad doesn't make the thing in and of itself bad. It makes their use of it bad.
About an 8 out of 10 on my own scale is not necessarily going to be 8 out of 10 on someone else's scale.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But that's still people using it bad, right? So I don't know. Sure.
It could very easily be a 9 or even full-blown 10 out of 10. It could very easily be a 3 or 4 because that person doesn't care at all about the stuff that I enjoy, but loved everything else that I just didn't really pay as much attention to.
Yeah, so you got to know the person who's talking in order to understand their score. Or read their rubric or whatever. I think this is the one that you can kill. Oh no, not so far. Okay, we're going to continue to go get the map first.
And the way this messes with the context that review scores are talked about is that so many people have this obsession with thinking that review scores need to be some kind of objective standard, and that
I haven't seen this obsession, but a review score does not mean... I've never heard anyone say, oh, there's a review score on this, therefore it's objective. I've never heard that statement in my life. I don't know who's thinking this. there are people who will talk about like how good a game is and then reference to Metacritic because that is evidence for them. That doesn't mean they're being objective. They're just saying like, if you just say how good a game is and say, well, it's got a really high Metascore, so that proves me right, they could be like, good is subjective. And they're saying that the feeling around the game by most people is that it's good. So that helps their argument, right? It doesn't mean it's objective. I really don't hear these people say this. But it does help their argument that a game is good. Because good, as you've correctly pointed out, can be subjective.
Totally changes the way that we perceive what number scores games get.
Well, the use of the number score changes the way people perceive what number scores games should get. I feel like I completely fucking didn't understand that. I feel like we talked in a circle there. Maybe it's very possible I was kind of doing something. So let me make sure I understand.
That I just didn't really pay as much attention to. And the way this messes with the context that review scores are talked about is that so many people have this obsession with thinking that review scores need to be some kind of objective standard.
Okay, they need to be some kind of objective standard. They need to get objective facts right, but that's true whether or not the game score is there. So a lot of times people get really mad at a game score because a person just got something wrong. So, not sure about that one, but let me make sure I understand the rest of it.
And that totally changes the way that we perceive what number scores games get.
Okay, so people thinking that the review scores need to have an objective standard is changing the way people view what game scores a game should get. Right? That's fine. First of all, review scores absolutely do not mean that the review is objective. I really don't know why we're saying that. That's very strange to me. So, that's point number one. So, your premise is already flawed. But even if I follow you and say, okay, people see a score and think that means objective, people don't seem to actually get mad at that. They get mad when there's a bunch of people they perceive to be hating on a game that they like because it hurts them. And then they get mad when facts are represented incorrectly. I don't know. You'd have to show me examples of people really just being like, okay, this game got an 8 out of 10. That means it is objectively better than this game that got a 7 out of 10. I've never heard people say that. Got him.
The act of using a number score is also, by its very nature, a very reductive act, right?
Yes, that's true. But reductiveness is useful for certain things. Spotting trends is probably the best one, right? We want to see the trend of games and how whether they're getting good, better, or worse over time. It's not perfect, but if you got review scores from the same reviewers, it is at least something, right? It's at least useful data. You want to see, okay, there's 2 game consoles that came out at the same time, their lifespan was the same time. Which one had the better exclusive games? A good piece of data would be, well, which one got reviewed, or which one's games got reviewed higher, right? That's obviously going to be useful to that conversation. Is it reductive? Sure, but we're not trying to talk about the individual games there. We're trying to figure out if the games as a whole trend higher. Right? The isolated merchant's shack. Let's see if this dude's got cookbooks or anything.
Well, it's been how can I help?
You do not have you have absolutely nothing of use to me. You have my armor set. So that's not useful to me. And then you don't have cookbooks or wait, what is that? Yeah, or stone sword keys. So you suck. You're the worst guy ever. I wish you were dead. I don't wish that. But he is at least boring and lame. Okay, so this is, I think that's the one I marked out. already beat that tree, yeah. So the one I marked out... Oh, I hear it tingling. You guys hear that tingling? Oh, I heard it again. There it is! I found it tingling. The Sky Shot Ash of War. Nice. Okay, yeah, so that's going to be the longer thing. Right. That makes sense. So... Should I try to do that first? I think, yeah, I can do it from here, right? I can just go up and around. Yeah, let's do that. Oops. Oh, homeboy's shooting at me. Great. That's annoying.
Point is trying to sum up an experience in the simplest format possible, give me a rating of 1 out of 10. And when used on that kind of personal scale, where you know who the audience and the speaker is, that makes a lot more sense.
Sure, but a lot of the times, if I follow, like, Skill Up or ACG, I know them pretty well, because they have a bunch of reviews that I've seen before. Just looking at one review, that doesn't help. But I know who ACG is as a reviewer. I know who SkillUp is as a reviewer. I know who Digital Foundry are as reviewers. Their scores I can understand. I'd be like, okay, this is what they mean when they say this. So I could actually look up the shorthand of their thing and do totally fine. That was actually really easy on a horse. Is that just the meta, to just kill these dogs on horses? It was really easy. Maybe I just got lucky.
But when it's used more in the kind of public forum that we see a lot of reviews get talked about and used in now, most people aren't really talking about the individual ups and downs that a review is giving.
They aren't, but it's not always useful to talk about that, right? If I'm talking about how well Street Fighter 6 is received, I want to mention the score, because it's useful to be like, okay, here's how critics as a whole seem to feel about it. And then I could say, well, what's the consensus on the netcode? What's the consensus on the fighting game mechanics? What's the consensus on the single player and shit like that? I can then go in further. But just seeing how people feel as a whole, a summary of how reviewers feel about a game, is still useful.
Oftentimes they are aggregating all the review scores that a game gets and talk about how, oh, yep, this is definitely an 8 out of 10 game because that's what everyone is on average saying.
Well, they could say, if they say it's definitely an 8 out of 10 game, that I guess that would be wrong. But if they're just saying the consensus is that it's an 8 out of 10 game, like somebody who's saying this is definitely an 8 out of 10 game because they looked at the Metacritic, I don't think they're saying, like, that's an objective fact. I think they're saying this is the consensus on the game. Even if they're, yeah, you're right, that, like, there could be different rating scales for shit like that, so I understand how this would be bad, but the consensus on the game is that this is an 8 out of 10. Right?
Without really getting into the weeds of why it might be an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, but you don't always need to get into the weeds of why it might be an 8 out of 10. That might not be the point you're trying to make.
For those people. And this becomes especially messy when we get into the realm of outlier review scores. Look, no one game is ever going to be perfect for everyone. Doesn't matter what it is.
Sure.
Tears of the Kingdom, a perfect example recently, is a game that got overall raving review scores from a lot of people, 9s and 10s as far as the eye can see. But if you look at the grand scheme of all reviews that are out there, yeah, there are some outliers where people can give it something as low as, say, a 6.
Okay, so there are outliers in game reviews. A review score doesn't seem to affect that. The outliers are going to exist anyway, right? Why wouldn't the outlier exist? Or why wouldn't the outlier exist without the review score? There's still going to be people who don't like Tears of the Kingdom without the review score attached at the end of it, right?
And the way that some people react to these outlier scores, whether it's a negative review of something that generally got positive reception or a positive review of a game that otherwise got maligned against, quite frankly, just saddens me.
Okay, so again, this is not a problem with the score system. It's a problem with how people use it. I would not abolish game review scores because people are assholes and yell at people who give good games bad reviews. It's like... I don't get rid of a useful tool just because some dickhead wants to use it bad. That seems entirely counterintuitive to me. It's just like, oh, you people who use the score in a good way? Fuck you. You don't get to have it anymore because we got some bad actors. Like, I don't think so. That's not generally how we should view things.
There's oftentimes this immediate jump to judgment that either a different score was given merely for the sake of being different so they could stand out.
That definitely happens. I think it'd be really tough to argue that that doesn't happen, right? Because your 4 out of 10 on Tears of the Kingdom is going to be very noticeable on Metacritic. So that's not guaranteed to be why you gave it a 4 out of 10. But it could be, right? It could easily be that case. I'm still not at the bottom of this fucking thing. Jesus Christ. Okay, so I really got to just start in the Lake of Rot in order to get through this. Fine. I'll do it.
And pull more clicks,
Or
or there's an assumption of some kind of additional agenda where, you know, they gave a positive review to a game that a lot of other people disliked because they were paid off.
So there might be an assumption of that. That's true, but it also just might be true. The review score being incredibly different than other review scores would be an indication that something different is happening. That different thing could be that they're just doing it for a bad reason. It could be. It doesn't guarantee that it is, but it could be. You have an issue with people who just jump to conclusions, which I agree is an issue, but people will jump to conclusions on anything. Right? So you have an issue that these people have bad evidence for their claims. Yeah, I agree, that sucks. We should have good evidence for our claims. We should.
Or they gave a negative review to an otherwise popular game because they have some kind of brand loyalty to a competitor, and therefore that's why they're going to give it a negative score. And look.
Yeah, I mean, if I watch a MKBHD video on phones, right, he doesn't give them scores. But if he talks a lot of shit about, like, he seems to be more of an Android. I know he likes both. But let's just say, since I brought him up, let's just say, if he talked a lot of shit about the latest iPhone, I might be a little suspicious. I might be like, hey, you seem to be more into Google stuff. Why do you like... Why are you talking shit? I guess that's a pretty bad example, because he actually uses both. So let's do Linus. I know Linus doesn't use iPhones. So if he did a review, Linus Tech Tips, he doesn't use iPhones. If he did a review of the latest iPhone, and he just talked mad shit about it the whole time, I might think that it's just like, well, you use PC and you use Android phones, so do you actually have some kind of bias against Apple? I don't think that he does, but that's a reasonable question if he just constantly shits on their products all the time. It's a reasonable question. So if you see a bad review of a single thing, it's a reasonable question to be like, hey, why are you so far out of the norm? You are clearly different. Why? Why are you different? It's bad to just claim that it's because they're biased or they're paid off or whatever. That is bad, but the question in and of itself is not.
I'm a realist also. I'm not going to say that there aren't situations where those exact scenarios have happened. But the quick...
Good. Right. Good. We agree. So the game score does not cause the problem. It might raise some questions more easily, because people can see this at a glance, right? And if it's happened before, it's reasonable to be on a lookout for it.
Negative response that people have to these outlier reviews, whether they are honest or not, is extremely unfair and oftentimes get pushed to the point of full-blown memes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but if you have a hugely negative review of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I know where we're going with this. You have a hugely negative review of that when everybody else thinks it's good. Even if it doesn't have a score at the end of it, if it's a popular thing, it's going to get spread around. It might not be as easily noticed because you don't see it on Metacritic. You don't see the red score pop up. But that doesn't mean it can't spread, right? You have an issue that it's more easily noticed when somebody's weird? When somebody's different, it's more easily noticed? It doesn't seem like a huge issue.
One particular example, years ago, there was an IGN review of Omega Ruby
backwards.
Alpha Sapphire that was on the less positive side compared to a lot of the stuff out there. It wasn't even a fully...
Yeah, it was like I want to say it was like a 7 out of 10. But I think their complaint was actually valid. Spoiler alert. But let's go into what the complaint was.
negative review. It wasn't like a 2 out of 10 or anything. It just wasn't as glowingly positive as all the other ones out there. And one of the reviewers' complaints was they didn't like the map layout and how much water there was. And instead of that being...
That does suck. You want to know why it sucks? It's weird. Their bullet point wasn't very good. That's the problem with their review. Too much water. Too many HMs is a very valid bullet point too, though. But the too much water meme, you are constantly in danger of being attacked while you're on water, right? And you're always going to be attacked by the same type of Pokemon. They're always going to be water types. I don't think there's a single non-water type you could run into while floating around in the water in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. God damn it, I still didn't make it to the fucking right area. Can I go this way and then go across? I don't know, man. This sucks. I hate this fucking part. I'm going to try to go that way. Well, we'll see what we do. But yeah, so you're always going to be attacked by the same type of Pokemon, and you're constantly going to be under threat of attack, making it very slow. So if you got your fire type that you're trying to train while you're going through this water section, you're not going to have that great of a time, okay? It's going to be really annoying. You're also just going to keep stopping every fucking 10 seconds. So that's really annoying. So it's a valid complaint, especially if it's a significant part of the game, which I don't know that it was like a huge part of it, but that one part where you are just stuck in the water, it's not that fun for the reason I just described. So that did get memed because too much water in and of itself sounds really stupid. So it was actually not even the review score that was the problem here. It was their little bullet point that was shit. Do a better bullet point, and then maybe it'll be less of a meme.
reviewed as that specific reviewer's experiences, and finding the fact that, yeah, the world map being mostly water was something that detracted from their enjoyment of the game.
I don't even think the world map is mostly water. It might be like 1/3 or something like that. I don't think it's mostly, though. I'm trying to remember my experiences with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and also Ruby and Sapphire, as it were. And it's just that one section. It's like Pacific Log Town, and then the fucking Ash Town, and Moss Deep, I think, is one of them, too. So, and you have to dive. Oh, you also have to dive. The too many HMs is so true. Man, you have to basically turn your water Pokemon into HM slaves, which sucks, dude. It sucks. Have I not been here? Or is this just another exit to that same abandoned cave? No, I was here. So was I going the right way? Ah, I fucking hate this place. Okay, we're just gonna slip and slide down here. I'm gonna die on the way. It's gonna be great.
It instead immediately devolved into mudslinging against the writer. And to this day, something I still...
Well, the mudslinging was because they like Mudkips, okay? And Mudkip is one of the starter Pokemon. We like Mudkips. That's why we sling mud. Come on now. Come on now, dude. You should know this.
see get memed about whenever people want to poke fun at what they think is a dishonest or unfair review.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally a fair criticism. The meme is that you did a really bad job of summarizing it. Like, no one actually gave a shit about the HM one, because everyone I talk to pretty much recognizes that the HMs in Gen 3 and the Gen 3 remakes are fucking out of hand. There's way too many. Your water Pokemon have to be HM slaves, or you have to just have an HM slave in your box ready to go at all times, which is really fucking annoying.
This is where Metacritic comes in. Something that I think is actually, initially actually a smart and useful tool for approaching this concept of aggregates.
I think it is a smart and useful tool. I think what people do with it can sometimes be very bad. I've already explained why it's smart and useful, though, so I won't do it again.
Scores, but instead ends up getting weaponized entirely too often. The point...
Again, that's not a problem with the score itself. It's a problem with the way people use it. So it's not that game review scores suck. It's that people are dicks. You don't like that people are dicks. I don't either. I'm with you, buddy. We should make people less dicks. That's true. The way I solve people being dicks is I don't give them less tools to be dicks. I mean, I guess sometimes I do. But I don't, it feels like we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater and just being like, no, this is all fucking shit. How the hell? I don't remember how I used to get down here. I'm not even going to the right place still. God fucking damn it. Ugh. Yeah, I gotta go back. Ah, God, I fucking suck. I suck at this game.
The point of something like Metacritic is to look at all of the different reviews that are out there for a given game, put it together, and let people know what the average is coming out to.
Yes! Yes, it is. Although I don't think it's technically average. It's a weighted average. I believe they weight some sites higher than others. I believe. They're not very open about it, which is why I prefer OpenCritic. OpenCritic doesn't do... They only do games. So, I want the OpenCritic for movies and shit, too. Give me that. Who's gonna make that? I could make it. I'm a programmer. Oh! Okay. Is this not... Should I just fight these fucks? I'm really just trying to go to that fucking... that thing. You know what? I'm just gonna run around you. I don't care about you. We'll kill you later. I don't care about y'all right now. I got other shit to do. Okay. I hate that I can't even check my map because he's there. I understand why. I wish I could check my map and then have the fast travel points like X'd out. Okay. Where the fuck is the way down? Why do I not remember how the fuck to get down from here? Do I have to go through here and fucking around or something? I just don't remember. I'm not seeing any steps or anything. I just don't remember. Because I went from that way and it just fucking took me... It took me to a hill that I didn't see a way to climb up. Maybe there was a way to climb up? Maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I'm just really, really stupid. That happens, man. I'm stupid sometimes. I know. I act like I'm a genius. But a lot of times, I'm stupid as hell. Okay, we're back in Caleb. Right. So we can see... there's the climbing down there. We should be able to see the wall from here at least, right? Where's the wall? That's the wall. I didn't see a way to climb that, and I still don't. So we're gonna go around there. I guess we're gonna try to that way, kinda? I don't know, man. I just want to go down the crack. Just let me get in your crack, okay? Elden Ring, just let me get in your crack. It's not that big of a deal. Just let me get in your crack.
In other words, it is a massive simplification of an already simplified approach to talking about a game's value.
Which is fine. There are times when it is useful. Right? Do you think I always have to go fully in depth in every one of my statements about a game? I have to give all kind of caveats and talk about every single aspect of the game? No. Of course I don't. It's useful shorthand. Shorthand is useful. We know this. This is known. Those dogs still after me? Kinda. Ugh. Is there... Am I supposed to actually just go down this way? And then go backwards? I'm so confused.
By taking individual number scores and now turning it into one kind of seemingly official score. Now actually...
Seemingly official score. See, it doesn't seem official to me. It is an interesting data point that may or may not help me, like, or it may decide whether I should look further into a game. If everybody says a game is a fucking 4 out of 10, chances are I'm going to agree with them. So I don't have a reason to look further into it, right? There are some people who view it as official. You seem to. Or at least you're like, oh, you're trying to argue that it's not official? Okay, sure. Sure. Yeah. It's not, though. You know? So, again, this is people using it poorly. It's not that the reviews suck themselves.
I don't mind the concept of this in and of itself, especially because oftentimes when you look at Metacritic scores, you can actually see the full breakdown.
Yeah, so You don't mind this concept in and of itself. You mind how people use it. Right? So it isn't game reviews suck. Or review scores suck. Right? Why in fuck have I not figured this out yet? I feel like I'm doing everything I fucking can to figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing. Am I supposed to go up from... Is that like... Dragon Barrel West. I'm supposed to go up from below the well. God, I hate my life.
Of where all the positive reviews are coming from. You can see who are giving more negative scores. You can take a look at highlights of the highs and lows, and it's an interesting way of being able to look at all of this information all at once. But what
it is, it's an interesting and useful way to do that. It is. So now you're going to tell me that people use it bad, and sometimes I'm going to agree. But that's not what your video says. Clickbait fucking titles, man. Well, actually, I don't even know if this is clickbait. I bet he thinks that this is the same argument. I bet he thinks that just like, no, people use it bad, so therefore the review scores themselves are bad. I feel like he thinks that.
What it ends up being turned into is an argument and additional reason why people get mad at outliers happening in the first place. What before could have been a situation of, oh, this person's opinion differs from my own and I'm just going to ignore them, now turns into a debate of, oh, because of this one person's negative review, my favorite game this year now has a slightly lower Metacritic than it could have.
No, that's not... I mean, that could happen. But you disagree with my opinion, so I'm just going to ignore them. The people who yell at you about your Metacritic score will yell at you if you just post a bad review without a score, right? The Metacritic thing might have been like, okay, there's a bad Metacritic on the game, and I know Metacritic affects sales to at least some degree, so I'm upset about that. Sure, but that doesn't mean people aren't going to do the same thing and just yell at you for posting a bad review, because your review, if you're a big site, will also affect scores. All right. Gonna go fight. You ready? You ready to fight this bear monkey thing? Oh, it's just a bear. I thought it might be a monkey sort of esque. We got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Because a point got reduced by having a single 5 in the group of 9s. When I really think about it though, I think the bigger problem I end up having with this whole approach is, look, it's absolutely an issue when someone is given problems for not liking a game that is otherwise overall generally received, but it's also the way in which these simplified reduced scores can make it so much easier to dismiss those games that are not necessarily the big name breakout hit of the year that everyone's constantly talking about.
Okay. The simplified review scores are going to make people not think about these other games? Maybe? I'm not sure. If your game is good, it's generally going to have a better review score. If your game is not good, it's not going to have a very good review score. Generally. I don't know of an example of a game... There are games that I like that have shitty review scores, or at least like average or something. But like, what's the game that is just absolutely fucking incredible that has a bad review score? There are several that have like none. There's like none that there are several that just like don't really appear on Metacritic. I think Pizza Tower, like I couldn't find anything on it when people were saying it was pretty good. You can go on Steam and stuff and find stuff, but I don't know that this is happening. I would love to see examples of games that have shitty review scores but are actually just incredibly good. Because people even seem to give a lot of deference to like indie games and shit like that would need the like big push from a good Metacritic score. Like lots of indie games do really well on Metacritic from the outlets that review them. So much so that people say like, oh my god, the AAA industry is dead. Thank God for the indie games. That's the only place where good games are. Right, so... Gonna need an example.
about. There are so many games that I've played over the course of my life that, yeah, have middling scores of 6s and 7s, which, by the way, aren't even bad scores. People tend to talk about anything lower than an 8 as...
That's good. I like that he's saying this. So, for me, if you put 7 as average, you're like 100% wrong. 5 is average. You want to know why? Because if you use 7 as average, you're missing half the fucking scale. Everything below a 7 is bad. Why are there 6 options that are bad, and then 3 options that are good, and then 1 that is right in the middle? Why the hell would that be the case? Why would you have more options for bad than good? You have twice as many options for bad as you do for good. That's insane. That doesn't make any sense. It's just because the people who, like, do that are saying, like, well, a C is average. It's like, no, a C is passing. C is an average. It's passing. The average in your class might be a fucking A if it's easy enough. But a C is passing. So that doesn't make sense. We're not grading things on a percentage scale of how many things they got right. Well, maybe you are. I don't know. Your scale could be that. But generally speaking, when you're talking about a rating scale, it's just how good is it? Be it objective or subjective, whatever criteria you're rating it on.
If it's somehow a bad game. This isn't grade school. You're not getting a C or a B for how good the game is.
True.
The concept of a 5 or a 6, which would be the midpoint on a scale of 1 to 10, means that the game is fine.
Yes! That's exactly what I was saying. At least we agree on that. I appreciate that. This guy has a good scale. I don't know that a 5 would actually be fine. A middle of the road game is probably not fine, but it's like, it's not gonna piss you off generally, you know. If that's probably what he means by fine. But like having anything less than a 7 to me would not be fine, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. But having a non-bad game is not fine, I guess is my point. You want to have a good game. One thing I will say, a lot of people complain about IGN is just like they just pass out, like there's nothing below a 7. Somebody, I was watching, I think it was GameScoop, and they mentioned this. GameScoop is an IGN podcast. They mentioned, well, we're not going to review all the bad games, right? Like, most of the games that come out are going to be at least, or most of the games that we review are going to be at least good, because, like, the really bad ones don't really need reviews most of the time. And most AAA games are at least serviceable. So we might dip into the 5 and 6s, but they're normally not so bad that it needs to be lower than that. And that argument makes sense to me. So you might disagree. You might think that The Last of Us 2 should be a 3 out of 10 because of how shit its story is. But I don't know. That's fine, but I don't think every bit of it would lower it that low. I personally give The Last of Us 2 like a 7, but I'm not heavily into stealth games. So I did hate most of the story. But the atmosphere was fun. I thought the gameplay was reasonably fun. And reasonably tense. But I understand why some people might disagree.
Not bad, just fine, and that's it. Games can be fine sometimes, and even have really cool things worth talking about that aren't necessarily going to be enough to salvage the other problems that a game has.
Yeah, that's true, but that happens whether the game score exists or not, right? If you go into a review that thinks a game is fine, then they're going to tell you it's fine. Right? And so it's gonna, the idea, it's not that it hides a game review score. The lack of a game review score isn't gonna hide the fact that a game is fine, right? It doesn't do that. The game is still fine. You read the reviews, they're still gonna describe it as fine, right? Okay, we're gonna be facing some bosses up here. But let's explore the video a little bit more first.
And the thing is, I have played so many games in that kind of middle score region that to me left a much more lasting impression than numerous 10 out of 10 highly polished great games to play.
Yeah, so that's a problem with people need to explore a little bit more, right? It's not necessarily a problem of review scores. It's that people don't take a game that is considered middling and give it a shot. I don't know that the review score really makes that so much bad or worse. I generally don't do that. But even if Metacritic didn't exist, if the word of mouth that I just saw on like Twitter or from people that I follow or whatever was that a game is middling, I'm probably still not going to play it. Right? Like, why would I? I got better things to do with my time. Okay. So we're going to do this. And we're going to do that. I don't think we need to do the other ones. Yes. You coming, buddy? Where you at? Come get me, bitch. There you are. There you are, you bitch. Oh, you got lots of fire, don't you? Ain't you fancy? Okay, okay. I got stuck a little bit there. That sucked, but... Got him. One bitch. Alright. Who else we got? Duelist vanquished. Yep. So we gotta do this one now. Let's see if we can do it. I believe we can. I believe we have the strength within us to persevere. Our madness is going away, which is good. Is that just Yuri or whatever his name was? That guy that we fought many times? I don't know what. Is there sometimes when I'm just not doing it? I'm literally hearing the clicking of my controller, and he's just like, hey, no, though. Alright, that was easy. Needing the cerulean tears, but that's all we need. One more, and then we will have conquered the Great Jar. Can we do it? Can we do it? I believe we can. I believe we have the power. Bitch. Bitch. Okay, now you're dodging. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah, you're doing lots of damage now with your bloody slashes and shit. I see you, son. With your bloody slashes and shit. Oh, you dodged the same way I did. How dare you? You're not allowed to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. I've conquered the Great Jar. Great Jar's arsenal. I don't remember what that does. I remember it's pretty good, but I don't remember what it does. Isn't it in here? Or no? I really thought it was. Am I stupid? What's that? No, no, no. There it is. Okay. Yeah, I am stupid. Vastly raises maximum equip load. That is pretty good. I don't care that much about it. But it is pretty good. It's pretty good. So we're done with that, I think. Let me just write my words a little bit. Check it out. I don't believe we can actually go in here or anything. The Great Jar hath not defeated us. So I'm guessing if I try to open this, it won't open? No, it does open. I didn't think. What's in here? I do not remember at all what's in here. Kaled Coliseum. Oh, okay. It's a Coliseum. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not planning on doing any of that. That's why I was like, I don't remember this being here. I think this was added later. So, I'm not much of a multiplayer duty. So, we will leave. And then we will go kill the Great Dargans. I don't need any of this. We'll kill the Dargans on there, and then we'll head to that. Sound like a good plan?
Give you an example, Alpha Protocol. This was a game that came out back on the PS3 360. It was from Obsidian, and it was an absolute broken mess of a game.
Yes, so it's a broken mess of a game, so that can be proved objectively going against your previous points, but also a game score. You didn't even give a game score, and already I don't want to play it, right? Because it came out as a broken mess of a game. If you're now going to say they fixed it later, so it got better, updating the review scores would be possible in the same way that updating a review without a review score would be possible. If people don't do it, that's not a problem with game scores. That's a problem with people being lazy and not updating things. Or maybe just not caring. Like, it's not that they're lazy necessarily. It's just like, well, I'm sorry, your game came out and it was shit. Like, first impressions are important.
It released extremely buggy, unfinished, unpolished, had a lot of problems, and the negative scores that it got because of that were 100% deserved. Not a thing I'm going to fight against whatsoever.
Yes. Okay, so where could we be going with this? The review scores that it got were deserved, so why would the review scores be a bad thing here? It sounds like they did exactly their job. Let's kill this dragon, huh? Now you can see my killing of the dragon. There's another one we're gonna kill two before we continue talking about Alpha Protocol, a game that I was ever so mildly interested in, but the reviews were bad, so I didn't play it. That's cool. My horse ate all that. So sick of dragons. These ones at least don't fly around. They're easier to beat than the other dragons so far. Ta-da! I like that switching. That's a good switching. So much fun.
But at the same time, that game had so many interesting ideas, and to this day, one of the best executions of choice, consequence, and evolving character relationships and dialogues, that it has stuck with me as one of my favorite video game experiences I have ever had.
None of that matters. You wanna know why? Because you yourself said that it was a broken mess of a game that deserved the bad scores it got. It deserved the scores it got, so none of this other crap matters. Why would any of that matter? It's going to get bad reviews whether there's scores on it or not. People are going to be like, hey, this game has this interesting thing, but it's just shit. It's just overall shit, man. I just can't recommend you play it. It's just a shit game. You said it. If somebody tells me that it's a broken mess of a game, but it has this interesting aspect, I now come up with like, oh, well, it's a fucking broken... Like, I don't want to play a broken mess. Right? It was so broken that it deserved bad reviews. You said this. These are your words. Right? So what's the problem with the review score? Is the problem that they don't see that it has the good parts? Well, they might, because an average review score means two things. It means either everything in it was average, or there's a mix of good and bad things that come out to be average. So if Alpha Protocol has really high highs and really low lows, like you're saying it does, it'll be average. That's why Metacritic even says, indicates mixed or average reviews. Because if you got a 9 out of 10, and you got a 1 out of 10, that's a 5. Okay? That's a 5. Because 9 plus 1 is 10, divided by 2, 5. See? See how that works? But if you have a 5 out of 10 and a 5 out of 10, that's also a 5. It's 5 plus 5, 10, divided by 2, 5. See? So this doesn't really seem to be a problem with the game score. Maybe we're going to say, like, hey, you folks need to understand that a 5 out of 10 could have really good shit in it. Right? It could. But again, we don't even know other people's ranges of scores. So, I don't know. It seems like an odd complaint.
more so than a lot of popularly well-received 9 or 10 out of 10 games. I love God of War, I love the Spider-Man games, I've enjoyed Halo and Gears of War stuff as well.
None of these things have the thing that you're talking about, right? So you are trying to compare games that don't need to be compared at all. But you're actually doing the thing that you didn't like earlier, right? You're comparing games because of scores for seemingly no good reason. Right? If you see a 10 out, just because a game is a 10 out of 10, doesn't mean I want to play it either. Baldur's Gate is like getting incredible reviews everywhere. I tried it, I just don't like it. It's not even because it's not good. I think it actually is a good game. It's just not something I want to play. And that's cool. Right? So this isn't a problem with review scores.
All big name stuff, but at the end of the day, when I look back at some of the stuff that's really influenced me as a gamer and the things that have stuck with me, it's not always those massively well-reviewed games. Reducing down our understanding.
That's true, but the Metacritic score wouldn't... The game score, or the review score at the end doesn't change whether the review is good or not. Right? The review is positive or negative whether or not there's a score attached to it.
Or discussion about a particular title down to whether or not it is a 3, a 5, a 6.
You can still have the in-depth discussions. This doesn't stop you. It just allows for other discussions. Right? It allows for me to look at something at a glance, which is very useful, and have the discussion of very easily of what is the consensus. I don't have to do a bunch of research to understand a consensus on a game. I can just look at the Metacritic. I can look at the OpenCritic. You know? So it allows for some discussions. Apparently you don't like some of those discussions, which is fine, but that's that's a problem with the discussions people are having, not the scores themselves. I really thought he was dead, but luckily he was very stunned.
Or a 10 makes it so much harder to get that idea across to people sometimes, because you're no longer wondering why a game got the particular score it got, if it had certain high highs and low lows. The understanding.
Then talk to different people. There are some people who aren't going to be easy to talk to about some subjects because they have some bias or something. That's true. I agree with you there. But talk to different people. You can do that. It's fine. You can do it. Okay, I think I did actually everything I needed to do over there, which is cool. Right? Because this is where I was, I believe. Yeah, I just went up and around. That's awesome. I'm glad I completed that. Mission accomplished. So I don't know if going here is actually helpful to me anymore. Yeah, I guess I can do that. Didn't make it. Rip. That's okay. I made it here. I don't think that actually goes anywhere. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does. This is actually a tough spot, I think. Is that going to kill me? It might kill me. We're going to find out. Ah! Didn't kill me. Because I'm a god. Okay. So yeah, so we just walk around this way.
Ending is simply, oh yeah, that one's a middle range one, that one's a more well-received one, I should just go play the one that's more well-received.
That's going to happen anyway. They just now are able to get the information faster. And the people who don't want to just stick to more well-received ones are not going to, right? The people who say, hey, I'm going to go check out middling games sometimes because they got something interesting. They won't go look at the Metacritic score and just have it be the be-all and end-all, right? I think you're talking to people who aren't going to do the thing anyway. Like, I generally don't play middling games. I will find out whether there is a middling game quicker because of Metacritic. But if I have to just search through all the fucking YouTube reviews and read all the IGN reviews and stuff, and then I come to the conclusion that it's middling just based on everything that they said, I'm still not going to play the game. The score doesn't change anything there.
Bit of a side tangent, but this also plays a heavy role into why I've never been that big on the concept of game award shows. I mean, I don't like award shows in general. It doesn't matter what the medium is. Film.
Yeah, I mean, I This doesn't have much to do with. He said it's a side tangent, but this doesn't really have much to do with it. But if we're just gonna say like, okay, I'm gonna play games because of the award shows or whatever, that means I miss things that don't get awards or something. If that's what we're gonna say, that would be wild. I don't know anyone who does that. People refer to them as another data point. If you're just saying, oh, a game was really good, it won Game of the Year from a bunch of outlets, and it has a really high score on Metacritic, it is another data point to say this game was incredibly good. That's the only way I've ever heard game awards used. And then it's important for recognizing within the industry, like recognizing outstanding achievement from other game devs. So I've heard it used in that way too, but I've never heard of a game award influencing purchasing decisions, really.
Films, music, it's something that I've never really taken that seriously personally, but I hate the way that it ends up being used in a lot of dialogue about the merit of individual game releases.
Okay, so we're gonna we should praise the ones that get the awards, right? I would think. Maybe we don't have to if we don't take the awards seriously. But it's someone out there saying, "Oh, it won no awards. It sucks." I haven't heard people say that. I heard people kind of laugh at Starfield for not winning any awards. But again, that's just a data point.
Because it no longer becomes a thing about highlighting what games have been excellent or fun in different ways. It now turns into a discussion of what is the best.
No, it is highlighting that. This one actually highlights it even better than the other one, right? Because there's different categories for different games. So we are highlighting this game was an action game and it did its job fucking incredibly well, right? That's what's being highlighted. Behold, I don't believe it. Okay. Yeah, I'm struggling to find the way around here. I can drop down here. I believe I did that already. I can do it. Alright, now I'm here. Back at the ladders. I think the ladder down might be the way I need to go. I think I might need to be just going down here. I don't think there's much of a cliff I can grab onto there. Not here. No item ahead. Okay, so I'm not supposed to be here, I guess? Oh, it looks like I can go back this way. Did I do that already? I probably did. The rain is actually legitimately fucking me up right now. It's okay. Yeah, I did go like all the way around. No item ahead. Yeah, I did check this. But I don't remember where the fuck I'm supposed to go from where I'm currently at. No mage ahead. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've not successfully found the way I'm supposed to go. You don't know, I'm lost. I'm scared. I'm lost.
Of a given category. And for some things, I actually do like it. I think the benefit of something like an award show oftentimes comes from being able to highlight those people that aren't talked about as often.
But you just said it doesn't really highlight a game for doing well. The different categories do that. You said they do? I'm confused, dude. But alright.
You know, a lot of times people tend to fixate on the lead director of a title, but we're not necessarily talking about the team that handles sound design or art.
Alright, so he's talking about different contributors to a game's success that are highlights. Okay. That's different than what I thought. I got it. I'm following you now, dude. I'm following. I'm not following the right path in this game, but I'm following you. Go up and check, and then if that doesn't work, I'm going to go down and back over and check again. This feels like the way I'm supposed to go, but I just didn't see a way up from here. You know? Like, I can't do that. I mean, that's back to there. I can go over here, but then that doesn't do anything. Like, I can't get past this thing. I'm really not sure where the fuck it is I'm supposed to be going. Okay, I can. Yeah, I mean, I can just drop back down here, right? And then Hop, skip, and jump. I'll be back up here. We already went around that way, right? Oh, I'm supposed to probably just jump over that, right? Yeah, and I failed. That's probably it. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. See? See? We're good elite gamer. Ugh. Can you imagine if this is just your life? You're just sitting here at the fucking edge just waiting for somebody to come fight you? That would suck, dude. I'm glad I'm not this guy. Well, he's dead, but even before he was dead, I'm glad I'm not him.
Art direction or music. So I think there is a really nice aspect to Game Award stuff that helps make sure that those people have their day in the spotlight. If they actually get fully acknowledged and brought on stage, which a lot of times they...
I was trying to run, and I accidentally just backed up. The controls in this game, the platforming controls in this game just suck ass, okay? That's mostly a subjective opinion, but I'm sure I can qualify it with some objective stuff if I really fucking need to. But it's fucking annoying and shit. Okay? It's not a platforming game. I think this one's a little bit unnecessary for the platforming aspects. I understand sometimes you want to hide something or whatever, encourage exploration, encourage some skills. I understand to some degree. This one's just like annoying.
They don't for some categories. But instead we highlight and fixate so much on trying to say something is the given best of a category when oftentimes there are categories that don't even make sense with why two games are being directly compared to each other.
Yeah, I mean there are categories that don't make sense, sure. But doesn't that encourage more discussion? Right? Because then you say, like, oh, which games actually fit this? Which games are indie games? What does indie game even mean anymore? Has it evolved to just small game, non-AAA game? Is that what an indie game is? Or does it actually mean it was not published by a big publisher? It was actually independently published. Is that still what it even means? I don't know. Who knows? Only the Claw knows, actually.
Because while they may share a similar overarching genre, they are ultimately extremely different experiences. Because once again...
Yeah, but you can still highlight one that you think did its job better. You can say, oh, these both have goals, and I think this one achieved its goal better than this one. That's still very subjective, as you're pointing out. Or it can be, depending on what the goals are. But you can still do that to each other. You can still say this one was a 9 out of 10 in comparison to its goals. This was an 8 out of 10. And you come up with which one won the award, right?
Again, guess what, guys? Video games are art. This is a debate that ended, or at least should have ended, over...
Video games aren't art. They're bullshit, and they're poisoning your mind. Okay, yeah, video games are obviously art. Not a very interesting conversation. We all know it's art. All of you here know it's art. Stop arguing about it. That doesn't mean there's nothing objective about it, but it is art.
Over a decade ago, and art is ultimately subjective. There may be...
No. No, it's not. Okay? So, there's things that are subjective about art, but you say something like a story, you can objectively determine if a story is good, if it may even make sense. If it doesn't make any sense, like it's not internally consistent, then it's bad. Right? If a video game doesn't run, the fact that it's art doesn't matter. It's objectively bad because I can't fucking play it. Right? So, the statement art is subjective is true, sorta, but there are objective qualities to it that can make the art good or bad. But also, it doesn't have much to do with scores.
Things that are more popular or resonate with a larger audience than most people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can very easily just look at two games and go, oh yes, this is absolutely 100% all across the board the better thing.
That's generally true. I don't know that scores necessarily are saying exactly that. That just because one gets a higher score than the other doesn't mean it's just all across the board. Actually, I know they're not doing that. Because, like I said, you can have 2 5 out of 10 games. One is a 5 out of 10 because everything about it is a 5 out of 10. And one is a 5 out of 10 because half the things are 9 out of 10 and half the things are 1 out of 10. So across the board, they're actually even in that the 5 out of 10 one will beat the other, well, the all 5s one will beat the 1s and 9s one on all the things that the 1s and 9s one is a 1 on. But the 1s and 9s one will beat the 5 out of 10 across the board one on all the things that the 1s and 9s one is a 9 on. So even the end score doesn't do this. There are people who misuse it, though. I agree. But that is a misunderstanding of what a score even means. And I understand people have different ranges and what is and is not X out of 10 or whatever. I understand all that. So they may not even be using the thing that I'm talking about. But that's just a misalignment from people, right? Okay, I thought maybe I should have gone to the other one first. I can clear out this thing. Yeah, the Divine Tower of Caelid. Is this the one that goes down that you can actually start traversing downward? I can just pop back to the other thing, so I guess I'm gonna go here first. What's up?
I know that review scores and the way that we talk about them are not a thing that are going to go away anytime soon, and really, if I'm being honest, ever. But if there's one main...
And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And I think it a couple times, you've kind of given reasons why they shouldn't. You even said Alpha Protocol deserved the shitty scores that it got.
Point I want to get across in this video, and really just try to impress upon you if it's not something that you've thought about, is to look, understand that yes, there are going to be scores that are commonly occurring for different games, but if you're able to, just scratch a little bit deeper. Look.
Yes. So the point is not the title. The point is not that game review scores suck. The point is that you shouldn't only pay attention to game review scores. Fucking click. God damn it. Yeah, people just do this, man. They just, like, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say game review scores suck. Actually, they don't. People suck. Thanks, bro. Oh, my God. I agree with that. You should scratch deeper. You want to know why I agree with that? Because Baldur's Gate is like a fucking 9 to 10 out of 10 for like everybody. You know who it's not? For me. I think it's actually quite objectively good. But it's like a 5 out of 10 for me. I wasn't having that much fun. It's not because it's bad. It's because I don't like it. So that's why you need to scratch the surface a little bit deeper. You know? There was idiots I watched. Absolutely stupid people who thought Tekken 8 was bad. Stupid, retarded, fucking subhuman pieces of shit. That's what they were. They thought Tekken 8 was bad. And that's why you need to scratch the surface deeper. Because if you're one of those idiots who looks at Tekken 8 and thinks it's bad despite its glowing review scores, then you would need to scratch the surface. Or scratch below the surface, I mean.
Look into the actual conversations about these titles and not just simply whether or not it is something that has a high or low score, and even take the risk a little bit and try something that doesn't necessarily have the best review scores out there.
Yes, all this is fine. But your fucking title is clickbait. You're not saying that game review scores are bad. You're saying, hey, stop using them wrong. Do more research.
Because who knows, you might find yourself discovering something that you hadn't really experienced before and were missing out on because the common number that a lot of people assigned it made you think that it wouldn't necessarily be worth your time.
It didn't make you think that, in that it doesn't force that upon you. You just think that because your thought process is flawed. Again, not a problem with the game score. It's a problem with you. You need to evolve as a human being.
So that's it. That's the end of my rant. I know not my usual type of video, but just something I've been thinking about making a video on for a while now. If you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more stuff like this, where it's a little more just kind of rant driven and not necessarily just product reviews, let me know with that like button.
No. Don't let him know. Let me know with that like button. Click the like on my video. They're all rants. All I do is rant. Okay? I play Tekken, I play Elden Ring, and I rant. Like and subscribe if you like all that. I also don't think any of my titles of videos are lies. So that's a bonus. And at least try to make them not lies. I try to make you interested in them, but I don't think any of them are lies. I think they are backed up by the content in the video. His title, well, he may actually believe that. He even said at the end, his point is different. So, you know, take that as it is. I give this title a 2 out of 10. Because you are indeed talking about game review scores, but you're not talking about why they suck.
Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys later.
All right. What did we learn? We learned that game review scores don't suck, and that you need to scratch the surface a little bit more. We learned that there are games that deserve to be 5 out of 10. Fuck! We learned that there are games that deserve to be 5 out of 10, but you should check them out anyway. But game review scores are bad, but this game deserves to be a 5 out of 10, and it's unfair that you didn't look at it. Even though those same people who didn't look at it because it was a 5 out of 10 almost certainly wouldn't look at it if they were just reading everybody's reviews. Right? I don't remember what else we learned. We learned that clickbait titles still work on me. The problem is, with some of these clickbait ones, which I don't know if this was so bad to call it clickbait, because it's not like complete lies or anything. It's just misleading. So I don't know if it's so bad that I'd call it clickbait. But the problem with this is, like, I don't want to know everything that's coming up in the video. So I try to watch like 20% of it. I watch like a couple minutes at the beginning of it. I don't want to miss a big twist ending or something. I don't want to miss memes. I want to experience it mostly with you. I need to curate it a bit though, right? Because I need to make sure there's shit I can actually talk about in it. I need to make sure that, I don't know, that it's actually at least mildly entertaining. I need to make sure that I disagree with it most of the time. Or at least have a lot to add to it. So I gotta check it out a bit, but I don't want to watch the whole thing. But that just ends up with like, okay, we got to your conclusion that I purposefully didn't read. Oh, fuck. Really? Is this what I'm talking about? I landed on the thing, and the getting up animation pushed me off of it. Isn't that fucking shit? The platforming in this game sucks. There are objective ways to prove that sucks. That one was bad. The fact that I was literally on it, and they do the Spider-Man fucking landing, and they get up, and that pushes them off it. I didn't get a chance to move. Their get up animation pushed me off of it. That's pretty shit platforming. I guess if you just like that kind of thing, that's fine. But by my definition of platforming is, if you land on the platform, you shouldn't be just randomly pushed off of it out of your own control. Like, not even a hazard. Like, your character shouldn't push you off it based on no input from you. That shouldn't happen. That's part of my criteria for platforming. And based on that criteria, the platforming is bad. I do like that they're at least putting my runes here. So that's good. They good guys. At least on that. I'm going to try to get... There's a Godskin guy at the bottom of this, I do believe. So I'm going to try to get to him and beat him before we go. Actually, you know what? There we are. Back to Elden Ring. Back home to Elden Ring. See? That time it didn't randomly push me off, which was good. Okay. Whew. A Felt like I wasn't gonna make it. Alright, I hope I'm close. Okay, I think that's like one of the things that'll help me beat it, right? Because that'll open the door. Yes. That'll open the door that was closed. We gotta beat this homie, though. You know what we're gonna do, though? We're gonna stand here. We're gonna aim at him. Shoot our fucking great bow at this bitch. Peekaboo, bitch. I see you. Got him! So I'm glad I have some magics on my side. Because while I can beat that guy one-on-one, I just didn't want to fall off or something dumb, you know? It's just a dumb thing. That would be dumb. Alright. Alright, we're making it. How y'all doing? Good? Good. I'm glad you're doing good. No one answered. But I'm still glad they're doing good. Okay, so this is... Wait, what? Is that the door? I don't actually know where the fuck I am right now. Is the door up here? I'm certain this leads to the door. It probably is, right? Because I didn't go that up, high up. Yeah, this is a long fucking ladder. Long ladder. We're gonna look at my character booty all day. This leads to the door, correct? Yes. See, I'm so smart. I know Elden Ring game design. I know these things. What do y'all think of game review scores? Are they the best ever? Are they the worst ever? Are you mixed on it? Just let me know. I'm at least mildly interested in your opinion. Okay, so there's an item over here. It's probably a reasonably mean guy that we gotta fight in there. Yeah. I knew he'd be reasonably mean. Look at him. Look at how mean he is. He's a big old meanie head. My build is making it so that he can't do jack shit. I see lots of people struggle with him. I understand. I think I've actually died to... Maybe not that specific one, but a one of those multiple times. There's one, I believe, outside of the Godskin Apostle guy. Okay, should I keep platforming over there? It looks like I can. That's a crumbly guy, you know? That's the crumbly guy I did earlier. I can't go back down. I don't know. Maybe this is just the way you're supposed to go. I want to try that first. Try the old crumble dumbles, you know? Because this is going to break almost certainly, right? Oh my god, I predicted the future. Is this just death? How fucking stupid is that? That is both not stupid and very stupid. Because it looked like certain death, right? But it ended up not being? The fact that it's not certain death is good. Because that would have kind of fucked me over. But it really looked like certain death, right? Okay. So there probably is more to explore here. This is the boss. I do want to check out... I'm going to rest with the grace. I can probably level up too, right? If I can't level up yet... Yeah, I only need a couple thousand. So we're going to crank out a big rune or two. Where are we at? The hero's rune? How many we get? 15,000. I'll take it. So we're going to level up. Increase our intelligence. We are so smart. And then I want to go back. So the basement is where we're... Yeah, center. I want to kind of continue from where that elevator started. Maybe there's nothing there. I don't remember. But I want to continue from where that elevator... The first elevator started. Go the other way. See if there's something we missed there. If not... Yeah, I'll just teleport right to the basement. Oh, good. Come on, bro. Who the fuck? I didn't even know y'all motherfuckers did that. Alright. Off we go then. Through here. Go down this big old ladder. It's fun. Splitters! No! Ow. Rug burn, rope burn, wood burn, all the burn on my hands, all the splinters. No. Okay, so there's nothing over here, right? Yeah, there's nothing over there. So then we just go up this, or go down this, I guess. Yeah, so I didn't check out the other direction here. There's a guy waiting for death. So that's fun. But I didn't go this way to see if there's anything of import. There might not be. There'd be absolutely nothing of import. I see all this random shit, so it's looking like there's literally nothing at all. Yeah, so there's no point in coming over here. Cool. Still no item. Yeah, that's salty. Okay, cool. We want all the things that are necessary. That's fine. So we will go to the basement and then fight the boss and then call it a day. Alright, there's going to be one of those same guys right up front. I remember this. I struggled with this a lot in my first playthrough. Nope. Ladies and gentlemen, we fucking got him. Okay, so now let's get up to the boss door. Is there anything anywhere else to go? Nope. Boss door. Nice. Okay. Let's get in there and fuck him up. Oh my god, he immediately hit me with a fucking black flame. That's okay. We'll get him. Mimic Tear is tanking all the hits, which is, you know, just fucking fantastic. Just really helps me. Boy, is he tanking the hits. Taking hits better than I do. Maybe he's blocking. I don't block. Well, Mimic Tier was actually God Tier. You thought it was. You thought it was the Mimic Tier. Turns out it was the God Tier. You know, absolute godlike behavior. Love my Mimic Tier. Let's get us some loots for all of our troubles. There's an else. Godslayer Greatsword. That's cool. I slayed the gods. Turn to entrance? Sure. Is that just going to take me to the basement? It doesn't really matter where it takes me. Does not matter to me. Oh. Takes me outside. We did it. We did the dungeon. Those dragons respawn? So I fought them for no fucking reason. Okay. We're going to go Dragon Bear West. I'm going to level up. We'll do Vigor this time. All right. I want to thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Goodbye.